This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the GSMC Sports Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcasting Network. And man, I am your host, still. I am your host, Josh Strickland, and welcome to the Tuesday edition of the GSMC Sports Podcast. The Tuesday edition, which is the 6th day. We're going without any sporting events, technically. By that, it's the 6th day without the NBA at least, but it's like the 5th day or something without sports in general, like sports overall, and it's been a struggle. Not much has really changed since Sunday. Most sports are still under the mindset that we're gonna wait to see what happens here. The NBA said they'll reassess everything on March 30th. The CDC just recently came out with a announcement that said no groups of 50 or more people for the next 8 weeks. So that we're going to go 8 weeks without any sporting event whatsoever, which is going to be a struggle, especially since I make content based off sports. But there are some things that we can talk about. We're going to talk about the coronavirus, of course. This is a quick update about how it's going in the sports world. So today, the NFL announced that the NFL draft will proceed. They plan to proceed with the televised draft on April 23rd to April 25th. But public events in Las Vegas, like the surrounding like Fan Fest and stuff like that, the fun things that fans get to do, those will not take place. So those are completely canceled. It's unsure if the NFL draft will still be on that huge stage and still have like fans in the audience or anything like that, or if it's just going to be in a studio in New York. Are draftees still going to be there? Are owners and GMs still going to be there? Is Roger Goodell going to be shaking hands with people? These are questions that need to be answered when we're talking about the NFL draft here, and it's going to be everything from now on is going to be a bizarre experience. Just gonna let that go. If any sporting event that happens, if it does happen, if it does take place, they decide to go through with it, it's going to be bizarre. Like I mentioned on the Sunday show, watching the UFC was bizarre Friday night. Watching WWE without a crowd was bizarre. It's going to be a bizarre. Any sporting event we actually do see is going to be bizarre. Now, high school sports are still going on. Well, not anymore in my state. So pretty much here in South Carolina, all public schools are ceased. Like, they're closed until at least March 30th. So that takes away the whole month of March. And by the way, happy St. Paddy's Day. People were going out to St. Paddy's Day festivals and stuff like that, still enjoying their lives. People are going to spring break and going to beaches and going to crowded places, and I mean, still enjoying their lives, which more power to them. But you got to realize that you still shouldn't do that, especially since we're trying to curb this before it gets out of hand, and it's going to get worse before it gets better. Because we're not administrating enough tests out countrywide, so there's going to be a lot more cases in general, so it's going to look a lot worse. So yeah, I mean, people are going to these public events. So the NFL draft is going to be very interesting on what they decide to do there. Or are they going to decide to go through with it and go through with all the fans and stuff, all the fanfare and all that, or are they just going to go and, just kind of whatever about it? So couple updates. Pistons Christian Wood has the coronavirus. He is the third NBA player known to have contracted the virus that causes COVID-19. Wood, who is in self-isolation since Wednesday, felt symptoms Thursday and was tested. Per a source, Wood is 100% okay and feeling fine. There was a player in the New York Yankees organization in their farm system that tested positive for COVID-19 as well, but he has been in isolation ever since then. So yeah, and then you have all of these different teams, all these different players who are doing the good thing and paying arena staff and stuff like that. So that's a great story to talk about. I mean, you got Zion Williamson doing it, even Rudy Gobert, who of course had a PR nightmare because of touching on the mics and stuff and making this whole situation very light. And then it turned out he was the first player to contract the virus. So he was dealing with a PR nightmare, and then he donated $500,000 in total, $500,000 to Oklahoma City hospitals, to the arena staff in Utah, and to France for France to help find a vaccine or something like that. An XFL player tests positive. It was a player on the Seattle Dragons. We don't know the actual player. He wasn't identified. This was self-reported to the team's medical staff after falling ill. The positive test was confirmed Friday. It's the first diagnosis of the coronavirus-caused disease in pro football. Idris Elba got it. Tom Hanks got it. Yeah, so NCAA suspended recruiting through April 15th. So there is no recruiting. It is a dead period. No coaches can travel. No coaches can have any contact with student athletes, which this is a good move because local talent, people who live locally, they'll have a better chance of getting that local talent. It's kind of a recruiting advantage because the people aren't traveling. I mean, I've seen images of people just, not being on planes. Like I saw a picture of someone, he was literally the only person on the plane. So there's crazy things going on right now. As I mentioned on Sunday, the Masters have been postponed, which is possibly the biggest announcement that could have happened out of this whole thing because nobody expected the Masters to be postponed, but it's being postponed. Potentially October. I've heard October. Boston Marathon got moved to September. That's another staple that happens on April 20th. That's a Boston tradition. The Boston Marathon, it will be moved to September. Whether or not they still have the Boston Red Sox Marathon Day or whatever that they usually have where they play at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon, that I don't know. NCAA tournament, of course, was canceled, and they did not do a selection show or anything like that to, give teams the time of day and stuff like that. So, owners meeting in the NFL was canceled. Just a quick rundown of everything. NCAA basketball, men's and women's tournaments canceled. Football, all team activities are suspended for ACC, Big Ten, Big 12, Notre Dame, MAC, Pac-12, SEC. Spring games are canceled for the ACC, Big Ten, Notre Dame, AAC, and MAC. NBA season suspended indefinitely. NHL season suspended indefinitely. MLS season suspended for 30 days. MLB spring training has been canceled. Opening day will be delayed. NFL owners meeting canceled. Draft still scheduled for April 23rd. XFL season suspended. Boxing, all sanctioned events are suspended through March 31st. MMA events scheduled for March 21st, March 28th, and April are postponed. UFC 249 on April 18th in Brooklyn is still scheduled. They're going to wait for that to see what happens there. Champions League is suspended. EPL is suspended. Europa League is suspended. Premier League is suspended until April 4th. Golf, the PGA Tour season has been suspended. NASCAR this past weekend's race at Atlanta and next weekend's race in Miami have all been postponed. The Masters tournament postponed, of course. NCAA recruiting suspension in effect through April 15th. Now you're wondering, how is this podcast going to work when there's no sports? Well, we have a saving grace. It's free agency time in the NFL, and that's pretty much all we're going to be talking about. So quick thing, the NFL CBA has passed. The players did decide to pass that. It was a very close vote. So we will have a 17th game starting in 2021, I believe. This upcoming season will only be 16, but the extra playoff game will be in place. So this upcoming season for the playoffs, there will not be two teams with a bye. It will only be one team with a bye for each league, and but we'll have so that's an extra playoff spot there, and we're still only playing 16 games, which my only thing about that is we're going to have to increase it to 18 because 17 games is going to bother the crap out of me It just makes no sense. So we're going to have to increase it to 18 eventually, and I hate it for the players, but just for OCD me, because I can't stand people going, I need 500 records, guys. I need the Cowboys to go 8-8 or 9-9, whatever. I need that consistency. We can't have that. I need the Cowboys to go 8-1 next year, okay, when we finally go into that. So the CBA passed. I've already discussed it enough. I'm not going to discuss it anymore here. But free agency and trades have happened. We got a crazy show. It is pretty much all NFL, to be honest. So we're going to talk about the newest trade, the biggest trade of the day. Here on Monday, it was DeAndre Hopkins getting traded to Arizona. Then we'll move on to Dak Prescott getting franchise tag. And then we'll talk about the Tennessee Titans free agency, their moves so far today. They made two big moves that I will talk about. And then we'll talk about the NCAA eligibility. And yeah, so when we come back, we'll talk about the DeAndre Hopkins to the Arizona Cardinals trade.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines. They got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
So when I was researching for the show and figuring out topics to talk about, I knew that players were going to get franchise tag because the franchise tag was the deadline was last night or today or tonight at midnight. So I knew there was going to be franchise tag news. And then I saw a rumor on Twitter that said the Texans might trade DeAndre Hopkins, and I was like, that would be the dumbest thing ever. One of my friends tweeted it out, and I replied, like, that would be the death nail in Bill O'Brien's tenure at the Texans, and it also would prove that he has some kind of hatred towards Deshaun Watson, trading away his number one target. And then a couple hours later, I get the notification that they traded him to Arizona. Well, here's the official timeline of things. So, like, in the morning, I saw that it was a rumor. Whatever, rumors, everybody's going to have rumors, like, of course, that they're shopping DeAndre Hopkins around. Then, later, you hear that the Texans traded for David Johnson. David Johnson, of course, is the running back for the Arizona Cardinals. He had a breakout year in 2016. Then he was injured all of 2017. Then 2018, he was a few yards shy of a 1,000-yard season, and then he was limited in this past year. So you see that they got him, and it was kind of bizarre because they already have Lamar Miller, they already have Duke Johnson. They don't need another running back, especially one that's kind of already on the decline there. And then a couple minutes after that, you read they traded DeAndre Hopkins for David Johnson. Oh my God. So this trade makes no sense at all. So here's the official trade. DeAndre Hopkins was traded to the Arizona Cardinals along with a 4th-round pick, traded to the Arizona Cardinals for David Johnson, a 2nd-round pick in this year's draft, and a 4th-round pick in next year's draft. So, basically, they traded DeAndre Hopkins, one of the best receivers in the league, top 3 at least. I personally think he's the best receiver in the league. Top 3 at least, indisputable top 3 receiver in the league, and he got traded basically for a 2nd-round pick. What? Excuse me? A 2nd-round pick? Top 3 receiver in the league, 2nd-round pick. Not only that, he got traded. He got traded for a running back who's been on the decline ever since he had his breakout year. ever since 2016, David Johnson's been on the decline. He in 2018 he was close to a 1,000-yard season. I think he had like 957 yards or something like that. He was close to a 1,000-yard season, but the year 2017 he was injured. 2019 he was injured and he was limited. And yeah, so what is wrong with Bill O'Brien? They already had Lamar Miller, as I mentioned. They already had Duke Johnson. They were fine at running back. I mean, David Johnson is better than Duke Johnson, of course. Lamar Miller is a different conversation. They're about on the same level, in my opinion. The Texans are now taking on all of David Johnson's contract, which is a terrible contract for an aging running back that is already on the decline. They didn't have a first-round pick this morning. They traded their best player, arguably their best player, and now they still don't have a first-round pick. They traded a top 3 receiver in the league for a second-round pick, basically, and they still don't have a first-round pick in this upcoming draft. So some things I saw earlier was that if they do trade him, they would trade him for like a first-round pick, and then they'll pick up a receiver in the draft. And that sort of made sense to me. I don't know why I still don't understand why you would trade a top 3 receiver in the league for a unknown rookie from college and see if he can produce the same amount as DeAndre Hopkins. It just doesn't make sense to me. So I saw this tweet earlier that said, these are the Tunsil, Clowney, and Hopkins trades. Of course, the Texans traded for Laramie Tunsil before the season started last year to get Deshaun Watson a little bit more help at the tackle position. They traded Clowney to the Seahawks before the season started last year because Clowney didn't want to be in Texas. He didn't want to be the Texans anymore, so they shipped him up for basically pennies. And then, of course, they just traded DeAndre Hopkins. So they got Laramie Tunsil, Kenny Stills, David Johnson, Jacob Martin, Barkevius Mingo, a second, third, 2 fourth-rounders, and a 6th-rounder. They traded Jadeveon Clowney, DeAndre Hopkins, Johnson Badmosi, Julian Davenport, 2 first-round picks, and a 4th-round pick. So they traded Jadeveon Clowney, who's arguably one of the best defensive linemen in the league. They traded DeAndre Hopkins, who's arguably one of the best receivers in the league, and they didn't get a single first-round pick. They actually gave up 2 first-round picks in all 3 of these trades, which, of course, all of those are for Laramie Tunsil, but still. So Laramie Tunsil, he's a free agent in 2021. He had 86% of the snaps. He was selected to the Pro Bowl. He had a pretty good year. This year. Kenny Stills, he's a free agent in 2021 as well. He played 13 games. He had 40 catches for 561 yards and 4 touchdowns. That's a pretty solid year. Then you go into Jacob Martin, defensive end. He played 14 games. He only played in 20% of the snaps, and he had 11 total tackles. Then you go to defensive end Barkevius Mingo. He combined for 6 tackles in 16 games played. I think he started maybe 1, but he combined for 6 whole tackles in a whole season. And yeah, I mean, you traded Jadeveon Clowney for this guy. I mean, they didn't specifically trade him for that guy, but still. Now, of course, there are some conjecture and there's rumors going on that DeAndre Hopkins didn't like Bill O'Brien, which honestly, I wouldn't blame him at this point. You know someone else who probably doesn't like Bill O'Brien right now? Deshaun Watson. What is Deshaun Watson going to do in this scenario? You have first off, you were up 24-0 against the eventual Super Bowl champions in the Kansas City Chiefs. You're up 24-0 in the playoffs. Your team blows it, mostly because of Bill O'Brien's incompetence. Then, I mean, you already had years of where no offensive line came in, nobody was helping you out with offensive line, and then now you finally got Laramie Tunsil, which is offensive line help. You finally got some decent running backs. You got a pretty good core at receivers with DeAndre Hopkins and Kenny Stills. And then you trade DeAndre Hopkins, who is Deshaun Watson's number 1 target. There were rumors that they could have gotten Sammy Watkins, stuff like that. They could still get Sammy Watkins, of course, but that was the rumor that it would be the Clemson trio over there with DeAndre Hopkins, Sammy Watkins, and then Deshaun Watson there. But instead, you trade away his number 1 target. Didn't get a first round pick. Didn't even get a lineman. Something you need. So now the Texans are sitting here. They have no first-round pick to spend on anything. So if you're Deshaun Watson, what do you do in this scenario? He becomes a free agent, I think, next year or the year after that if they don't deal with an extension. I know they're working on an extension for him and Tunsil at the moment. But if you're Deshaun Watson, do you really want to stay on this team? Because it seems evident to me that Bill O'Brien has something out for Deshaun Watson, and I have no idea what it is. Because first off, Bill O'Brien didn't even want to draft Deshaun Watson at first. Now Deshaun Watson is leading this team. He's a natural-born leader. He is leading this team to the playoffs and helping make plays happen. Does he hold on to the ball too long? Of course, yeah, he could be better at that, but most of the time he's just trying to make a play happen. And, I mean, that's... Now, I'm not going to knock someone for trying to make a play happen. So you have that going on. So if you're Deshaun Watson, do you want to leave? Because it's kind of clear that the Texans, who Bill O'Brien, by the way, is the head coach and the general manager. So this was a Bill O'Brien decision to trade DeAndre Hopkins. And, of course, if they had issues beforehand, I am under the impression that Bill O'Brien is not good enough to be trading away great players like DeAndre Hopkins or Jadeveon Clowney. But how about we talk about something positive about the situation, and that is the Arizona Cardinals. Their offense is looking scary now. They have Kyler Murray, which Kyler Murray had a sneaky good year last year. Nobody really talked about them because Arizona still was pretty bad, but nobody really talked about them. But Kyler Murray had a pretty good year last year for his rookie year. You still have Larry Fitzgerald. Larry Fitzgerald is back. He's still one of the most solid receivers you can have out there. He's probably better than at least 75% of the other receivers in the league. Now you have DeAndre Hopkins, which once again, top 3 receiver in the league. They could potentially still draft CeeDee Lamb just to, get the full on air raid going out here. I mean, imagine an air raid offense with Larry Fitzgerald, DeAndre Hopkins, and CeeDee Lamb. That would just be insane. Or they can get a running back in the draft to kind of make up for David Johnson, or they can get an offensive lineman. I mean, their draft kind of opens up because originally they were looking for a receiver. Their draft board kind of opens it up now because now they can just get pretty much any other need they need, which is probably going to be offensive linemen. So the Cardinals offense is actually looking really nice right now. So, and the consensus is true on Twitter. Everyone thought it was pretty good that they got David Johnson, but then they saw they traded DeAndre Hopkins for David Johnson, and then the tide kind of changed there on Bill O'Brien. So it's pretty much universally panned. Some people saying it's the worst trade they've ever seen, which is not that far from the truth in my opinion. But so, yeah, I mean, the Arizona Cardinals are starting to look good. The Houston Texans, I don't know what they're going to do. They might have just lost Deshaun Watson in this trade as well. Not that they traded him, but he might not resign now or sign an extension at this point. But so there you have that. So that's crazy. But when we return, we'll talk about the Dallas Cowboys, the other team in Texas, and what they're doing with their quarterback, Dak Prescott.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to Extreme Cage Fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
So there's a huge debate going on in Twitter, Reddit, anywhere you go, anywhere you talk about the NFL. If you bring up Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys, you're going to get into a huge argument there. So, Dak Prescott is the quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys, of course, and he had a really good statistical year last year. Overall, I mean, statistics aren't everything. The Cowboys still didn't make the playoffs. They were iffy for most of the year. They're already paying Ezekiel Elliott a lot. Dak Prescott's asking for a huge contract, or so it seems. He's asking for a huge contract. They've been trying to get a deal done this whole offseason, and now that the franchise tag was, the deadline was up, they decided that they are going to go franchise tag quarterback Dak Prescott. So they franchise tagged Dak Prescott so they can try to work out a long-term deal. It locks Prescott up for the next season. He's a top 10 quarterback in the league, debatably. That's very debatably, by the way. But I think the biggest issue here is that now Amari Cooper is going to be an unrestricted free agent, which is not a thing that the Dallas Cowboys wanted to happen when they originally traded for Amari Cooper. It definitely wasn't the plan when Dallas traded last year's first-round pick to the Oakland Raiders in exchange for Amari Cooper. The Cowboys did the deal believing they would get Cooper for the final 2 years of his rookie deal, as well through his next contract. But if Cooper signs with another club on Wednesday, the Cowboys will only receive a year and a half of his services. He did have 2 Pro Bowl seasons, though. Teams would rather have 5 years of a first-round pick than a year and a half of a Pro Bowl player, though. And so Cooper definitely helped spark the Dallas offense. The offense just looked better when Cooper was on the field. They were 3-4 before they traded for Cooper. They finished 10-6, winning the NFC East title and a wild card playoff win over the Seahawks. They went into that season without a number 1 receiver, and then they got Amari Cooper there to kind of fill in that role. So Cooper did struggle down the stretch this past season. It was his most injury-plagued year of his career. He had almost no impact on the most important game of the season, which was the 17-9 loss at Philadelphia in Week 16. He only caught 4 of his 12 targets for 24 yards. But the Cowboys still think he is the number 1 receiver, but is he worth being among the highest paid receiver? Of course, the highest paid receivers at the moment, you have Atlanta's Julio Jones, averaging $22 million per year. New Orleans Saints' Michael Thomas, averaging $19.2 million a year. Tyreek Hill and Odell Beckham are each averaging $18 million a year. He wanted to get a deal somewhere in that range. But here's the issue, and this is why franchise tagging Dak Prescott was a good move. If you're going to pay him that much, you're already paying Ezekiel Elliott a lot of money. And then Dak Prescott's going to expect a lot of money as well, because quarterbacks. You can't really afford to pay a receiver that much money. Now, Amari Cooper probably deserves the money. He probably earns it. He probably earned that money. But the biggest issue here is that there's not enough money. No matter how much Jerry Jones wants to convince people otherwise, there is not enough money in that organization to spread around, especially with the salary cap. If there's no salary cap, that Jerry Jones would go have a ball with this right now. But there is realistically, Amari Cooper could leave the Dallas Cowboys. He mentioned that he loves being a Dallas Cowboy. He loves everything about it. Think about it almost every day. Primetime games. It seems like we play more night games than anybody, which is true because the Cowboys are always in the primetime slot, no matter how bad they are. Seems like we play more night games than anybody, and that always feels good for the ball player. Everything, the facilities, I love it here in Frisco, where I stay at now. Just the aura of being a Dallas Cowboy. You can't beat it. I want to be a Dallas Cowboy for life. Now, of course, players have said this. Players always say things like this, and always they don't work out that way. But he does seem to really like the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, it might be a PR thing to kind of force Jerry Jones' hand, make him look bad, but I feel like Jerry Jones, at this point in time, doesn't really care if he looks bad. But Cowboys owner Jerry Jones, of course, gave an interesting answer at the NFL Combine last night when asked about Amari Cooper. Sitting on the team's luxury bus outside of the Marriott Hotel in downtown Indianapolis, Jones was asked about needing Cooper on the roster to get the best out of Prescott, team's most valuable player. He said this: "I don't want to imply that Dak needs a supporting cast more than others, but I think everyone every player goes with who his teammates are. The reality of it is you have to make those investments. It's real. It's real. I feel that we can put a team around Prescott that'll work. I'm not in that camp of just saying, look, any dollar you don't take gives me a guard for you or gives me a receiver for you. I'm not into that camp because I know it doesn't work that way. But it helps. It helps. Let's just leave it at that. We gain nothing by putting that argument on Dak because I'm not so sure it's a real argument anyways. A lesser guy may have a chance to come in and do better than another guy. That sounds like wishful thinking and not professional thinking, but you have to think that way. So that's what Jerry Jones said about Dak Prescott and Amari Cooper. He told a story that he acknowledged sharing 1,000 times. It's the one about the time Jones got off his private plane when a muddy 5-year-old Ford Bronco pulled up. It belonged to Jones. A reporter flying with Jones asked how he can have a jet plane and drive 5-year-old muddy Bronco. He said, it makes perfect sense to me. The way you get a jet plane is to drive a 5-year-old muddy Bronco. You can't have it all, and that's the way it is with each player. I'm not implying I have a 5-year-old muddy Bronco. Whatever that means. Basically what he's saying is you can't have it all. You have to pay for something, and then you kind of have to take a loss somewhere else. So where does this put Dak Prescott? Obviously, they need to look for a bigger deal in the future with Dak Prescott as they franchise tagged him. So the projected rate of his franchise tag is around $27 million. That's a good bit of money, but it's pretty cheap for a quarterback. If you can tag a QB at that low rate when he might get 5 years and $200 million as an unrestricted free agent on Wednesday, you are more happy to risk Amari Cooper taking a few phone calls. So Dak Prescott, this was a huge argument. Everybody argued about it. Dak Prescott, is he worth the amount of money that he's asking for? And I think it really has to do with what team he's on. The fact that he is on the Dallas Cowboys. The fact that he is on one of the richest teams in the league, one of the biggest brands in sports in general. I think that's why he thinks he can demand all of this money. I think that's why he's trying to do this. But in my opinion, in my humble opinion, Dak Prescott is a average quarterback, above average at best. He plays it safe. He has some pretty balls and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, he is an average quarterback. So we are left contemplating one of two bad choices. Dak is a bad QB, and the Cowboys keep secretly waiting for him to fail, while also never making even the slightest move to upgrade the position or acknowledge that they are even slightly interested in considering upgrade. Or the savviest financial family in the history of Dallas-Fort Worth sports keeps thinking the price of young quarterbacks is going to level off, even though their entire business knows this isn't true. You have to get this deal done. That's basically where we're going. The price is only going to go up. You can't keep franchising tagging him because the price is just going to keep going up. So you have to get this deal done because the price is going to go up the more and more you play. Dak Prescott, by the way, had 4,902 yards this past year, which is a lot. It's a lot. He averaged 8.2 passing yards per attempt, 12.6 per completion. His passer rating was 99.7. Passing completion percentage was 0.65. Passing touchdown, he had 30 touchdowns. 11 interceptions was a little much, but I mean, that's about on par. So yeah, he played really well this past year, and it's going to be very interesting to see how all of that takes place as the drama between those two, between Jerry Jones, Dak Prescott, and the Dallas Cowboys, that will continue, while also adding in the fact that they might not get Amari Cooper back. So, it's free agency, man. I love it. When we return, we'll talk about the Tennessee Titans as they made some free agency moves this week as well, or today as well.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's GSMCpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Tom Brady is in shambles. He is in shambles on his beautiful beach with his beautiful wife. He's in shambles right now as the Tennessee Titans have decided not to go after the Tom Brady sweepstakes, which apparently they never were in the Tom Brady sweepstakes, which must be a hit at Tom Brady's ego, just a little bit. And also, are we sure that's a thing that actually happened? So basically what happened today, they signed Ryan Tannehill. The Tennessee Titans signed Ryan Tannehill. They decided that Ryan Tannehill is the quarterback the quarterback of the future, or for the next 4 years for the Tennessee Titans will be. So they signed Tannehill to a 4-year contract for $118 million. That's $29.5 million per year, which is a lot. $62 million is fully guaranteed. So here's how it breaks down officially. 2020 will be $17.5 million fully guaranteed. 2021 is $24.5 million fully guaranteed. 2022 is $29 million guaranteed for injury at signing, and fully guaranteed on 5th day of 2021 league year. 2023 will be a $27.5 million base salary. So did they make the right move? Did they make the right move in going with Tannehill? And I can't really tell you that they didn't. Tannehill's 29, 28, one of the two. He played pretty well for the Titans last year. I mean, I can see why they kind of fell in love with Tannehill. He was lights out for the Titans last season after taking over for Marcus Mariota. He's the second quarterback of the Super Bowl era to complete more than 70% of his passes and average better than 9 yards per attempt in a single season. The Titans were a below average team with Marcus Mariota at the helm. Then they put Tannehill in charge, and they went 7-3 during his regular season starts. And then they, of course, pulled off major upsets in the NFL playoffs. You know, back when we actually talked about actual sports, they pulled off upsets against the New England Patriots when they became America's team after that. And then they pulled off an upset against Lamar Jackson, the league MVP, and the Baltimore Ravens. So Ryan Tannehill, he didn't really contribute much in the playoffs, but I mean, during the regular season, he was still playing pretty lights out. He was still playing really well during the regular season, and it makes sense that the Titans are going to continue with him. It makes sense to me. He's 31, by the way. I just looked it up. He's a little older than I thought he was. But this past year, he started 10 games. He had 2,742 yards, 22 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 9.6 yards per average, 10.2 average yards per average. His rate was 117.5. He took 31 sacks, which is that's a lot of sacks for 10 games started. But he had a pretty good year. Advanced passing stats. Intended air yards per pass attempt was 9.5, which is pretty high. Completed air yards was almost 1,500. Yards after catch was about 1,200. So, I mean, it's about even, about yards in the air and yards after catch. He played now here. The playoffs was the major complaint. He was 60% completion percentage of the playoffs, 5 touchdowns, threw an interception. He threw for 369 yards in 3 games in the playoffs. But I've been mentioning that getting Tannehill, getting the quarterback was important. Either it was Tannehill or it was Tom Brady. It was important to get the quarterback piece in there. It was important to get that locked down. But I thought the most important thing that the Tennessee Titans could do was make sure they had Derrick Henry for the upcoming season. Derrick Henry, of course, was the catalyst for the playoff run that the Titans had. He was the catalyst for that, as he in the playoffs alone. In the playoffs alone, he played 3 games, had 446 rushing yards. He had more rushing yards than Tannehill had passing yards, which is unheard of, especially in this modern era. He averaged 148 yards per game in the playoffs, by the way. That's insane numbers right there. I've been telling y'all that Derrick Henry is the most important player that the Tennessee Titans can get. It doesn't matter who's at quarterback if Derrick Henry's not there, because if Derrick Henry's not there, your passing attack's not going to be as good, because you don't have a whole defense that's focused on trying to stop the behemoth of a man that is at running back. Now, good news though, they franchise tagged Derrick Henry, which is probably not what Derrick Henry wanted, but it ensures that he is with the Tennessee Titans going into 2020. Overthecap.com projects the franchise tag for a running back this upcoming season will be worth about $12.36 million, which is a lot less than what Derrick Henry is probably going to ask for. The Titans now have until July 15th to agree on a multi-year extension. They have exclusive rights in doing that. After that, Henry can sign only a 1-year contract, which can't be extended after the season, and then he'll become a free agent. So he led the league with 1,540 rushing yards. He had 446 yards in 3 playoff games, like I mentioned. He was a beast in the playoffs. He could not be stopped in the playoffs, except for that one game where he got stopped. The main issue for the Titans in the playoffs, I feel like, was Ryan Tannehill, and it's not 100% his fault. He only threw 1 interception in the playoffs. I mean, he played pretty safe. He checked down and did all that good stuff. He played the Alex Smith offense, but he was not the reason that the Titans were succeeding in the playoffs. They were succeeding because Derrick Henry was running 150 yards a game. He was getting 20-plus carries and running for 150 yards a game. And how many attempts did he have? He had 83 rushing attempts in the playoffs. 3 games. 83 rushing attempps in the playoff. That's 28 attempts per game, about. It's like 27.7. That's what I'm reading right now. So, yeah. Derrick Henry is the main focus for the Titans, and they franchise tagged him, so good. So they locked down their quarterback, they locked down Derrick Henry. This is also the first domino in the quarterback free agency to fall, as it is one less suitor for Tom Brady. The 49ers also mentioned that they are not interested in Tom Brady. They're going to stick with Jimmy Garoppolo, which means that's 2 huge teams, 2 of the most likely teams, I feel like, or 2 of the top 5 teams that Tom Brady could have went to are now out of the race. That leaves, I've been hearing Chargers, LA Chargers. I've been hearing Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And of course you have the Patriots still there. I'm leaning on the Chargers because of that production company that I mentioned before, and I'm going to keep saying this until he signs somewhere. There's rumors circulating around that his leave from New England is imminent. He could go to Tampa and retire like every person from the Northeast goes to Florida and retire. He could go to Tampa, be with Bruce Arians, which would be interesting. Then where would Jameis Winston go? Or he can go to the Chargers, and then we sit here and figure out, is Phil Rivers going to go to the Buccaneers? The Colts could still possibly be an option. Apparently there was not a lot of interest for Tom Brady, apparently, among the league, which is very interesting to me because the media, and me included, I'm included in this, we were all kind of hyping up Tom Brady going to literally any football team, period, and apparently there was just not a lot of interest in him. So that's an interesting thing to think about. But the Tennessee Titans, they don't have to worry about anything. They are ramping up to compete for the Super Bowl, as they were so close making the AFC Championship game. They could definitely replicate what they did this year. You need a little better performance from Ryan Tannehill in the playoffs, I believe, because teams are definitely going to be focusing on stopping Derrick Henry instead of trying to stop Ryan Tannehill. So I think the Titans did good. They accomplished everything that they needed to accomplish so far. I mean, obviously they have other pieces that they need to fill out. Probably some on the defense, probably some offensive linemen, maybe another receiver, maybe. We'll see. But overall, I mean, these were their two big items. Quarterback, should we get Ryan Tannehill? Should we go for Tom Brady? Should we get someone else? The quarterback was the big ticket item. And then, of course, Derrick Henry was the big ticket item. And they retained both of them for 2020. Hopefully they can figure out something with Derrick Henry to keep him for a long term, because I really do like the Titans. I like Mike Vrabel. They were a fun team to watch, sort of, in the playoffs. I mean, their defense played really well, and the rushing attack was just amazing. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Titans do this year. Will they go 9-7 again? I hope not. I feel like the expectations are a little higher for Tennessee, and for a team that people forget that they're in the NFL, that's pretty good for them. It's pretty good. So when we return, we'll be talking about, because of the coronavirus, how's the NCAA going to deal with eligibility? We'll talk about that when we return.
Are you looking to get your college football fix? Looking to get the latest news on your favorite school's team? The GSMC College Football Podcast is your ticket to all things college football. Join us as we talk college football, from the national championship, the college rivalries, the bowl game, to the Heisman Trophy. To which conference is the best? We've got you covered for the Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, the Pac-12, ACC, and everything in between. Download the GSMC College Football Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Of course, as I mentioned at the top of the show, as I mentioned on Sunday, as I mentioned last Thursday, as I mentioned last Tuesday, the coronavirus is affecting us all in the country, period. As we're taking extra measures, borders are being closed, and people are hunkering down and self-isolation and stuff like that to avoid getting sick and avoid potentially getting other people sick, because there's some interesting things about this coronavirus and that we just don't know about. So one major thing that happened was the NCAA, which the NCAA usually does not make these huge decisions, and usually people don't always agree with these decisions that the NCAA makes, but everyone seems to agree with this decision. And I remember, so the decision of canceling sports, basically. They canceled the men's and women's basketball tournament, which people, of course, were against, because that was before. It was after Rudy Gobert, it was after the NBA canceled and all that, but people were still kind of like, no, my March Madness, what are we going to do? And that's a fair question, because what are we going to do? I was planning on talking about March Madness all this week, and now I'm talking about NFL free agency. I mean, think about how jam-packed that show would have been. I would have been happy as clam. But now the only thing I got to talk about is the NFL free agency, and then, of course, NCAA eligibility stuff. So they canceled the NCAA tournaments. They canceled March Madness, but they went a step further. They canceled all spring sports. So baseball, softball, no College World Series, no Women's College World Series. All of those are canceled. So this brings up a good question, because baseball and softball just kind of started. Then you have the track and field sports and stuff like that. So these schools, these athletes who played in these spring sports, who didn't even get to use a full year play a full season or do a full year of their eligibility, how would that work with the eligibility? Will the NCAA be able to give them eligibility back? Because this is unprecedented. This has never happened before. Especially not in recent time. Like, there have been times where stuff got postponed for a little bit, but it has never been postponed. Never, I don't think ever the season has ever been postponed. Except for maybe World War II. Maybe. I don't think they've ever canceled the entire spring football slate ever since the NCAA has been around. So this is unprecedented. What are we going to do? So In response to the cancellation of collegiate spring sports due to the coronavirus pandemic, the NCAA Division I Council Committee has recommended that eligibility relief be provided to all student athletes who participate in spring sports. Details of eligibility relief will be finalized at a later time, the NCAA said Friday in a statement. Additional issues with NCAA rules must be addressed, and appropriate governance bodies will work through those in the coming days and weeks. Assuming the eligibility relief recommendations from the committee go into effect, which is expected, the NCAA will need to adjust its rules about scholarship limits. Those details are expected to be ironed out in the coming weeks. So basically, if you give these eligibility back, these kids their eligibility back, that means all the seniors still get to be on scholarship, which means all the incoming freshmen, what are they going to do? So so what they're saying is they're going to address adjusting the rules for scholarship limits, probably only for this year. Probably just an exception for all the seniors this year, just to give them an extra year and stuff like that, or give everyone an extra year, I guess. Everyone who's currently in the system, they get an extra year, and then just kind of after 4 years, it'll even itself back up. I don't know, but that's kind of what they're thinking at the moment. In an email to a large group of administrators and other parties working in college athletics, committee chair Dr. Grace Calhoun, the athletic director of University of Pennsylvania, wrote that the committee will also discuss issues related to seasons of competition for winter sports student athletes who are unable to participate in conference and NCAA championships. Now that's bringing up basketball teams, as they did play the full regular season, but they never got to play in championship games. They never got to play in the NCAA tournament. Stuff like that. So maybe that's a little harder of a sell to me, because they did already play a full season. It does suck that they don't get to play for a championship, or they don't get to play in the tournament, which is what most of these athletes want to do in life. But that does suck. But at the end of the day, you played a full season. And yeah, you didn't get the proper send-off that you wanted. But what about all these teams that weren't going to make the tournament? They just automatically get their seniors back if they want to come back. It's very cloudy stuff going on there. It's unclear what options, if any, will be considered for winter sports athletes, because the season was nearly complete. There are significant logistical challenges. However, a source told ESPN that committee members wanted to discuss the issue further. I think for the spring sports athletes, it's a good idea. I like the idea of some kind, make good there, and that's the way to do it. Big East Commissioner Val Ackerman said Friday, baseball, beach volleyball, men's and women's golf, men's and women's lacrosse, rowing, softball, men's and women's tennis, men's and women's track and field, men's volleyball, women's water polo are all classified as spring sports by the NCAA. Just so you know, Florida Athletic Director Scott Strickland, no relation, said he plans to push for legislation that would allow seniors to return to school and for roster exceptions that would help make it happen. He said this, I think any senior who had a championship opportunity taken away because of this should get another year. I don't know if NCAA will take that up, but you have track athletes, you have gymnasts, you have swimmers and divers and basketball that what they worked for all year was taken away. I think we should give those kids another year. Whether that happens or not, I don't know. Yeah, we'll have that conversation. That makes a lot of sense, and it's the humane, fair thing to do. North Carolina lacrosse attacker Katie Hogue, who is a two-time All-American and the school's all-time leading scorer, has a teaching and coaching job lined up after she graduates this spring. She said she will make arrangements to return for some grad courses to play lacrosse next year if she is allowed. She said, I'm choosing my passion. I can't imagine ending my lacrosse career the way this season is going. I'm pretty hopeful this would be a possibility. I'm really excited this decision has been made. It's such a weird circumstance. This has never happened before. Like I mentioned, it's never happened before. It would be pretty unfair to have our careers or have this year taken away from us. I do agree with their decision because of the circumstances, though. The Ivy League, which hasn't allowed athletes to pursue a fifth year in its schools in the past, said it is working with our schools to identify and consider various issues, including those related to ongoing eligibility of senior spring student athletes. The NCAA also informed schools on Friday that a recruiting dead period is now in effect through April 15th, which I mentioned at the top of the show, banning all on-campus visits for recruits and off-campus recruiting travel for coaches. So that's pretty much the NCAA update at the moment in time. So the eligibility thing, I think it should happen, but I think basketball's a little harder sell for me. I don't know why I said it like that, and my accent came out right there. But basketball's a little harder sell for me there. That is a much harder sell for me than anything else, because they've already played a full year. Yeah, it sucks that they don't get to play in the tournament. They get to play for a championship and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, you did play full season. Some of these spring sports did not. I know it's easy to kind of wish that they let them do it just because that's what the big sport. Nobody cares about these smaller sports. They want the NCAA to have the big sport there. But yeah, it's very disappointing. I can discuss my disappointment more and more we were supposed to have basketball games on today or tomorrow, one of the two. We were supposed to have basketball games on this week. We were supposed to have March Madness this week, starting this week, and that was kind of taken away from us. So sucks. And it also sucks on the women's side. Women's basketball, we had a chance to see if Oregon and South Carolina could face off against each other in the national championship, which would have been a hell of a national championship for women's basketball. Those are two really great teams right there with great players on the teams. That would have been an amazing game to watch in the women's basketball verse, but we'll never know. It's a bunch of what ifs out there. What if Dayton was able to win the NCAA tournament? What if San Diego State could prove their worth and go far in the NCAA tournament? Could Kansas, could North Carolina win the ACC tournament? No, they couldn't. They lost their game. Sorry. But it's interesting. Would Florida State go on and make a huge run in the NCAA tournament after their amazing year in the ACC? Who knows? So much what ifs. I hate it very much. Sucks. Basically all I have to say. When we come back, though, there is one thing that I have been watching, and you should all watch. It's kind of catching on fire on Twitter recently, so you might have heard about it already. But we're going to be talking about the Marblelympics.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC, Invicta FC, Bellator, and one championship. We got the fights covered. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts. Past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
Listen, I know what you're saying. Probably saying to yourself, what did you just say? Did you say Marblelympics? What is that? What is the Marblelympics? Josh, what are we talking about here? What are we talking about? Well, let me tell you what I'm talking about. There are no sports going on right now. Besides UFC, there's WWE as well. Those are going on at the moment. But other than that, there are no sports going on. So I'm trying to bide my time. Now, I mentioned on the Sunday show that I'm going to try to figure out different ways to get to entertain myself, whether that be watching old games or watching just random sports that are thing. And I'm going to talk about random things throughout this whole experience. And by the way, there's 8 weeks of it, so we're going to figure it out. But right now, as I'm talking to you right now, I am watching the Marbula 1 2020 Greenstone GP marble race. Yeah, I said that correctly. I said marble race. Gels Marble Runs. That is the name of the YouTube channel. Look it up. It's JELLE Marble Runs. Or you can just look at Marblelympics on YouTube and you'll find it. Like, I'm watching this right now. So basically, these people build a huge track and they race marbles on it. I don't really know what else I can really say to sell you on it at this moment in time. That's all you need to know. And it is fantastic. And listen. You must be thinking to yourselves, like, why is he talking about this? This is dumb. Why are we talking about this? But let me tell you something. Right now, they are going around a track. It is 9 laps. I have no idea how these freaking marbles are still going. Like, how are they keeping up the speed or whatever? But let me tell you something. The production value on these videos is incredible. The production value of these videos are incredible. I can't really describe it perfectly, but like this dude has stands. Like, first off, they have teams. Each marble has a team, and then each marble has fans in the crowd. Like, he has little stands built out of Legos, and he put marbles that look the same as the marbles that are racing, and those in the crowd. And like, he's got signs, he's got advertisements and stuff like that. And it's a full blown track. He's got graphics everywhere. He's got he does commentary over it. He's got lap timers that tells you what their lap time and what their total time is and what the difference is. It's just so high quality. It's so good. It's so great. It's so good. I'm just saying. It's so fun. You should watch it. I don't know why I thought I could fill 10 minutes with this, but we're going to try. We're going to keep going anyways. We're going to keep grinding. It's 7 minutes left. But this is cool. I mean, it's so the best way I can explain it to you, the excitement behind it is there's a little random to it. So it's not like watching Formula One, or it's not like watching track or watching the actual Olympics where, you know, actual like skill and stuff, athleticism actually, you know, take part in it. This is legit random. Like, I'm sure these marbles kind of have, like, slightly different properties. Like, some might weigh, like, a gram or more or something like that. Like, there might be different properties and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, they're just different colored marbles. Going down the same track, they all get let loose at the same time. Well, actually, no, they're let loose in, like, lanes. So I'm assuming there's trial runs and trial times to figure out who gets to go first, who gets to go in the front, stuff like that. But at the end of the day, there's no athleticism. There's no, it's completely random. It's all random. It's just all random. And it's kind of fun to watch. It's kind of fun to choose a marble to cheer for and just watch it. And you get into it. I'm not lying to you. I am not. Watch one of these videos, choose a random marble. You'll get into it by the end of it. I mean, these videos are like 8 minutes long. He made like a bunch of these. He made an Olympics one where they go down a ramp, the marbles go down a ramp, they go into water and then keep going down a ramp, and then they finish in water, so it's like a swimming aspect. It's insane, and I love it. It's the 5th marble race of Marble One. Formula One for marbles. It's just insane to me that someone like, and the thing is, I'm half joking, but I'm not like, I'm subscribed to this channel. I mean, it's insane. He has highlight videos. He has top 10 marble races of 2019. Well, I'm going to put that on right now. But it is insane how much production goes into this. I mean, he's got like tracking shots of the races. He's got photo finishes. He's got slow-mo going on. You got heats, like in the Marblelympics. You got heats and stuff. He's got a video board. He's got a video board. Why does he have a video board? But it's insane. Halloween race final. Oh my gosh. I'm going to do a quick, so you got Blue Moon, Will-O-Wisp, Zomball, and Casper. And it looks like they're going through a haunted house type deal. There's candles. There's a little obstacle course going on. There's a lot of candles. It's like octagon type things that they gotta go down. It's like a honeycomb type deal. They're going down this ramp. Now they're going into dirt. They're on dirt. There's a boo. There's jack-o'-lanterns all over the place. Oh my gosh. The black marble is taking the lead. The white marble is right behind them. Now they're going down some kind of maze type structure. Black is still in the lead. The white marble is right behind them, though. They're neck and neck at the moment, and now they're going into another haunted house section where it's just random skulls all over, random skulls and skeletons. Black is taking a huge lead right now. He is demolishing everybody right now, but he keeps hitting corners. Blue is coming back. Will-O-Wisp is coming back to potentially take the win, but I think Black just won. White came out of nowhere at the end there. If this is not interesting to you, I'm sorry. You can look it up, just saying, but this is insane. It's just cool. And it's at this moment in time where we have no sports, where it's the best time to get into something really stupid. And the best example I can give you is Marblelympics and marble racing, because it is entertaining as hell. You get into it. You really do. I can't dispel that enough. You just choose a marble and you get into it. Right now they're racing on a beach. I don't like the amount of time and effort that goes into all of these races. That's impressive by itself to me. I don't even care about the actual races that much. It's just watching like the production value. Like the Halloween one, I wasn't expecting the huge production value there. I wasn't expecting the huge production value of the random skeletons and skulls that are all over the place. The production value is insane. I'm telling you. I mean, like I said, they got top 10 races of 2019. You got highlight videos of each team. You got Marble One, which is Formula One racing. You got the Marblelympics. It's crazy. It's bonkers. And I'm telling you right now, if you're not subscribed to this channel, subscribe to it, because it is worth it. Because I think they post maybe one video a day. That's all you need, man. That's all you need. One video a day. I have no idea if they do Marblelympics every year. I think they do. Marblelympics every year. Might be during the summer. Maybe. But, like, it's genuinely interesting. Genuinely interesting. I'm genuinely into it. I don't know if you can tell, but I am very, very into this. And I'm sorry that you want to talk about real sports, but I want to talk about Marblelympics for a little longer, for another minute or so. But it is very entertaining. I highly recommend it. And in this time of no sports, what else are you going to do? Huh? Yeah, I'm talking to you. What else are you going to do? Yeah? Watch Marblelympics. Do it. Just do it. Just watch it. Why wouldn't you? What else are you going to watch? Come on. Seriously, what else are you going to watch? Yeah, that's what I thought. Anyways, we're at the end of the show. If you like this show, and yes, I will come back on the Thursday show with another random sport to talk about. That's probably going to be a new segment, I guess. Random sports to occupy your time while the real sports are gone. Get ready for it. So thank you for listening, everybody. If you really liked this podcast, which, I mean, I think the first half was really good. I think the first 5 segments were pretty good, and then the 6th segment was pretty bad. I don't know who was in charge of that 6th segment, but, whatever. If you really like the podcast, like, rate, and subscribe to us wherever you get your podcast. Leave us a nice review. That would be great. You can follow me on Twitter at Strickland_Josh. You can follow the GSMC Sports Podcast Twitter, which will be reacting to every free agency move because there's nothing else to react to at the moment. That's GSMC_Sports on Twitter. And of course, subscribe to any of the other GSMC podcast network. We have other things other than sports. You can listen to the business podcast. We got a book podcast. We got marketing podcast. We have podcasts for a lot of different things. Social media podcasts. If you're interested in any of those, we have those. So definitely check those out. And that's it for me. Hopefully free agency is popping and Thursday's show is even better. So thank you for listening, everybody, and hope you have a great rest of your day.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. From movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.